Still very much in a fight for a top four finish, Manchester United. That is the least that they should be fighting for this season. And you heard from John Murtagh, the director of football this week, talking about the fact that fourth is not our ultimate ambition. We want to be challenging for titles again. What do you make of Ralf Rangnick's explanation, Roy? Particularly the second half, he said, really showed the gulf of where the teams are right now.
Yeah, I think he always comes across, he's a pretty honest guy. I get that impression. Maybe he tried to be too clever today. We're talking about obviously criticising the players. I thought they might have matched them up. But I think his hands are tied. He obviously knows he's here till the summer. You're asking about a manager to come in and make decisions and have some sort of power behind you. But some of the players will be looking at him and going, well, you know, you're only here till the summer. So I think that can affect the dressing room. But I think it was a pretty honest interview. He said, obviously, they were well short and they've got to get back to basics now and try and win next weekend against Spurs.
Tactically, was it a good plan?
Well, no, obviously, in the end. Although I thought they were better, actually, with Pogba and Fernandes up front than they were when Rashford came on. I thought they were even worse when in the second half when Rashford and Lingard came on. I thought they were terrible.
Do you think Ronaldo would have made a difference?
I'm not sure today. I mean, obviously, like we said before the game, I thought that actually it suited Manchester United having the younger, quicker, more energetic ones up front. It shocked us completely, I think, when we saw that Pogba and Fernandes were playing up front. There'll be people who'll try and sell that as the 4-2-2-2-2, whatever you want to call it. The 4-2s there are 3-2s. But the reality of it is it ended up with a four in midfield of McTominay and Fred with Elanga and Sancho, and it ended up with two central midfield players up top against Manchester City, Pogba and Fernandes, and that isn't right. That isn't right. I think he's trying to be a little bit too clever in terms of sort of that system that we know he's come over with, but then he's had to ditch it in the early days because apparently the players didn't like it, and they certainly didn't look like they liked it because they weren't playing very well in it, and he's gone back to a more traditional system. But he looks like he's tried to go back to that today, and I wonder whether that's had an impact on Cavani and Ronaldo in the last couple of days because apparently the manager doesn't know when they're going to be fit again. Which...
But why play against Manchester City, against one of the top teams?
I don't know why he look, it felt to me like a little bit like a tactical show-off in terms of trying to display his system. Was how I viewed it, particularly as I sit here now. But what I would say is that when he went to a more traditional system and put Rashford on with Lingard to the right and Sancho to the left, that was worse.
So what do you think he's thinking, Marcus Rashford? They played two centre midfield players as a striker and he's on the bench.
Well, at the start of the season, if you're saying that Marcus Rashford's on the bench and Cavani, Ronaldo, Greenwood and Martial aren't there, you'd be saying, well, what's gone wrong? What's gone wrong? I mean, that's got to be the sort of ultimate in put down for Marcus Rashford today, that the four other centre forwards he started the season with are not here, and he still can't get in the team. So it tells you where Rangnick thinks he's at. It tells you where Rashford's form's been.
Even Lingard, Gary, you know, they're throwing Lingard on. Lingard's not the answer. His contract, so he'll be off in a few months. You're throwing him on to try and get you out of a bit of a trouble. It's not going to happen.
Do you think, Roy, that Manchester United are further forward post Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? And remembering this is only Rangnick's second league defeat today.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're further forward. No, I don't. I think, again, I feel for him. As I said, you come into a job, you're on about a manager, and people are saying you're here till the end of the season, and he's trying to work with, some very good players, but big egos, who are under big contracts, and he's trying to put demands on them. Gary makes the point there, he wanted to play a certain system, but the players didn't like it. What does that matter? You try and get the system that works, that will get you results, to try and get Man United fourth position we're talking about here, and it looks likely now that maybe they're going to miss out on that. So I feel for the manager a little bit, but he's not done enough either, I suppose, whether would it be his personality-wise. I think he's very, very honest, but if the players, like Ronaldo, Cavani, these boys, aren't kind of taking too much notice of him, that'll just go through the dressing room, and all of a sudden the manager's got no power of control, which is key for the big clubs, as we well know. And if he hasn't got that, of course he's in trouble.
I think Rangnick, to be honest with you, is probably... He could really unload on, I think, a few of them in that dressing room. I think there's big problems in there. I don't think he's telling... I know he's being honest as he can be in those interviews after the game, but I don't think he's telling us half the stuff.
I don't think the players would be scared of Rangnick. I don't think he holds that sort of... You know, I don't look at him and think I'll be scared of him.
But it's not a case of being scared of him, is it?
Yeah, but it's having the authority. When you're a manager, you're supposed to have authority. Well, I don't look at him. His best work has been done behind the scenes. He's good at what he does. It comes to Man United.
Micah, I tell what Roy says before, but you know, if Ralf Rangnick's got a 2-year consultancy and he's going to pick the next manager, would you not think that he's going to pass on the information of how you've been with him?
Yeah, but
No, they won't care about that.
I don't think the modern day.
If they don't
player
care about
care.
that, there's a bigger problem than even I think.
Who's going to pick the players then? Is that going to give Rangnick that responsibility?
No, I would have thought, to be fair, that the chief scout, sporting director, new manager coming in will pick the players. But you imagine that what he's doing at this moment in time is information gathering. He's coming here with a 5-month contract, 6-month contract, with a view to consulting for the club in the next 2 years on restructuring the club in terms of appointing a new manager. He's going to pass on the information. If there's players chucking it in,
Yeah, but
Gary, he asked him a question.
All his credibility is gone. Like, if he come in as a manager and doesn't do well, he would have to win something. And he might win something. He have to win the league. Now he's going to go upstairs, and all these credibility as a manager is going to go out the window. He should have come in the back rooms.
His job for the last 5, 6, 7 years has been working in that type of role. He's not been a coach. So my point is, he's more suited to that role.
So why bring him in as a coach?
Well, I suspect they've brought him in as a short term. They had to change the coach. They've changed the coach. 5 months they've got to the end of the season. They thought, well, this guy's going to come in and do our sort of restructuring of the behind the scenes, and we'll actually put him in for 5 months, get us to the end of the season, view the club from the inside, in the dressing room, see what the players are like, and see who comes on the bus for next season. I don't think it's the worst
Gary,
move
when
in
he
the world.
comes in, fair enough, he comes in, you're thinking he can bring 1 or 2 of his staff in, but some of the staff that were with Ollie, Nicky Phelan, Darren Fletcher, Darren's a technical director. They asked him a few weeks ago, the manager, what's Darren Fletcher doing with you on the bench? He said, I'm not really sure. So that tells you where the problems lie at the football club.
I mean,
no one's got defined roles at the club.
He did suggest, again, with a twinkle in his eye on Friday, Ralf Rangnick, that he could still recommend himself as the manager.
That's not going to happen, Dave. He's not the manager of Manchester United next season. I can absolutely, categorically tell you that here now. And that's not because he's doing a bad job. He's just not being the manager of Manchester United.
So why give him the manager's job in the first place?
Because they couldn't get the manager they wanted.
It doesn't matter. We're talking about the here and now. We're talking about it. So you're just getting rid of this season then? Is that what you're doing? You're getting rid of the season?
You're ranting emotionally without any real sort of making sense.
Okay, so what?
Chelsea have appointed interim managers to the end of the season just to get them to the end of the season when the manager that they want becomes available.
Just because you're connected to Man United doesn't mean that my opinion's irrelevant.
It's not.
Radnick's best work is done behind the scenes. You brought him in as interim, and he's not done great. He's losing all credibility. Then he's going upstairs, and a new manager. You think the new manager's going to listen to?
Stop ranting. What should they have done?
Gone for Conte. Conte was available before he went to Spurs. He was the best available manager at the time. And because it doesn't fit the Man United way. The Man United way, you don't win the trophies no more. Conte's a winner. He's come from Inter Milan. And why would you not want... You don't want winners now? Is that where Man United are? You don't want winners anymore?
They didn't want him.
So why didn't...
I agree with you, they don't want him. Conte's not a manager for Manchester United.
Why is he not? Why is he not?
He comes in for 1 or 2 years, he does a great job.
But he wins. He wins.
Does he?
So do you want to be mediocre for the next 10 years? Is that what you want?
They've been there with Jose Mourinho. Right, they want to appoint either Pochettino or Ten Hag on a long-term project, and they needed somebody to get to the end of the season.
Keep
Mike, listen to this. This is what Richard Arnold said this week as well, speaking to Man United investors. He's the new chief executive taking over from Ed Woodward. He says, we will foster a culture of excellence through a world-class football environment supported by a sustainable operating model. It sounds like they are going to look forensically, not unlike the way that Manchester City and Liverpool have approached this, as we talked about right at the start of the programme today.
Manchester United need a longer-term approach to a manager. They always have had that. So they're not going to appoint a short-term manager again. They did that with Jose. They went against the grain with that. They're not going to do it again. Right or wrong, they're just not going to do it. They're going to appoint a younger, more up-and-coming manager. Ten Hag, Pochettino's not young up and coming, but he's certainly established himself. He's at Paris Saint-Germain. There's a bit of a danger with him because obviously Paris Saint-Germain could keep him at the end of the season, so they can't put all their eggs in one basket. So I suspect they're more favouring Ten Hag at this moment in time because they can probably get him. But they're not going to appoint Ralf Rangnick. They're always going to bring him in for 5 months and they're going to appoint a new manager at the end of the season. He's there on an information gathering mission around the structure of the club, the people in the club, and at the end of the season he'll hand over his report and the club will either take his advice or they won't. But I suspect a lot of the things he's going to say about those players in that dressing room isn't going to be favourable.
But if they want Pochettino, he's the man, then go and get him. I know people say, well, it's going to be expensive. He's got a clause in for it. They could have got him a few months ago, but it was 20-odd million, whatever it was, compensation. It doesn't matter. If you're Man United, it's the biggest decision they've had in donkey's years. Go and get the right man and pay the money, whatever it costs.
Could they actually take a leaf out of Arsenal's book, Manchester United, and Arsenal, the team that look like they are the biggest challenge to United's Champions League place right now, and take a bit of short-term pain? A couple of seasons finishing 8th, they've dropped out of European competition, signed deliberately young players with a young coach they're trying to develop. to see
I think
them
Arsenal,
move
Man
forward?
United is different.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. Man United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, I think.
Is that the problem, though, Roy? Because they have to keep chasing short-term success.
The spending power is different, though, Dave, as well. The spending
You
power of
said
Manchester United is huge compared to Arsenal's.
Gary.
It's the same as Manchester City.
But is
You said,
the
okay,
danger...
so you've been Pochettino pretty much all the way through this. Now you're sort of leaning towards Ten Hag.
No, they've got a real risk with Pochettino in that Paris Saint-Germain, I know what Roy's saying about go and get him, but Paris Saint-Germain are one of the clubs in the world that if they didn't want to let him go, they could just say, no, you're not going, you're staying here next season because you've done well for us this season. Now, if he gets knocked out of the Champions League, Pochettino, he could become available because Paris Saint-Germain's whole sort of model is around the Champions League. But if he wins the Champions League and he's done well with Neymar, Messi, obviously Mbappe may leave at the end of the season, they're going to say, no, you're not going anywhere, you're staying. I don't care what Manchester United have. They don't need the money, Paris Saint-Germain. So there could be an element of if they put all their eggs in one basket with Pochettino at the end of the season, they could end up managerless if Ten Hag goes somewhere else. That's why I feel like they'll have more certainty if they went for the Ajax guy.
And it's not a short term on the pitch either. This is a long term. Pogba's out of contract in the summer. I can't see the point in keeping him. I look at Marcus Rashford right now. I mean, I'll be thinking right now, if you're not getting in a game like this, the Gary Naylor centre forwards on there, I'll be looking to go as well, and it might be the best thing for him.
Ronaldo?
Maybe to have a change. Ronaldo, I don't think will be here next year. He's not, you can't build a team around Ronaldo. He's been one of the greatest players the world's ever seen. He's not the future for Man United. This is the young man's team. Cavani shouldn't be here next year. We're talking about so many different players. Is Wan-Bissaka as a right back going to take Man United to the next level? Of course he isn't. Left backs I don't trust. The centre backs I don't trust. Midfield players.
And if Man United don't finish in the top four, it makes it even more difficult to try and get
to attract them.
Do you think Ronaldo should be here next season?
I'd keep him, yeah, unless he's up to no good.